Okay, next is an actual item. Jennifer Thronston, invite you up, and Corey Nath. This is an actual item. So, Director Thronston, do you want to lead off our opportunity here?
Absolutely. So Jennifer Thronson, Director of Teaching and Learning, and I'm here with, do you want to introduce yourself just so we have that?
With Corey Kant, the educational specialist for the statewide online education program.
And no acronyms in that statement. That was well done. So we're here today to ask for approval for the certified online provider, our first application, which is ASU, and I will definitely yield to Corey. Corey has been the leader of this work. I'm just here to support the bigger questions that might come. So Corey, if you want to lead out on what you need them to do today.
Okay, so in the last legislative session, Senate Bill 226 was passed, which requires the state board to consider non-LEA providers to become providers in the statewide online education program. And as we thought about what that meant, we really thought about the differences between what a school or an LEA does, which a private vendor or some other entity does not do. So as we created our application process, we tried to put the two on level ground so that our non-LEA providers, our certified online providers, were acting or could acquire the capacity to act in the role of an LEA. There are certain things like special education, FERPA, a number of different things like that, like dealing with multilingual students, identifying those students, child find, all kinds of things that a private provider might not be familiar with. So we've gone through a process both through the application and training and the things we bind them to in the application, which should prepare them to act as, at least for the purposes, the restricted purposes of this program, as an LEA. And that allows us to go ahead and allow them to interact with our students, have access to our data systems, and so forth. So that's what I believe we've done. And that contract that we signed with them was put into rule. And hopefully you've all taken a look at that to see kind of what's in there, just spelling out all the requirements. And are there any more questions?
Yes. Vice Chair Davis?
I have two questions, Chair. May I ask them both, seeing there aren't a lot of lights?
You bet.
Okay. The first one is, in the backup material, it said, there's still a question as to who is monitoring non-certified employees, which law requires for all LEAs. This is still under consideration and assumed to be significant for, and then their sentence wasn't finished, so I don't know what the concept was to finish the sentence, but the bigger question is, so what is the answer there? I mean, because that's, who is monitoring the non-certified employees who are going to be working in this program with students?
Okay, so we had to take some time to figure that out. And let me tell you, I was just very quickly answering some questions that Andy Stallings passed on from me from the board. And obviously I didn't proofread the whole thing before I put it up. But the idea is, a few years ago, I think in 2018, the legislature passed a requirement that everyone within an LEA, licensed, non-licensed, or volunteers that interacts in a significant unsupervised capacity with children undergo a background check, but we think of it as a Utah background check because it engages that wrap back process where they're just continuing to look for new infractions and so on and notifying the school. So there was just questions on our staff, well, who actually does that for non-licensed individuals? It turns out that's the Bureau of Criminal Investigations, and each school simply forms an account there, there's a packet where they get consent from their employees for the BCI to hold their information, to keep running it through the background check process, and then to notify the school of any updated infractions. So that's how it will happen.
Okay, so we're not monitoring that. It sounds like, my other question is, and I actually appreciate that code because we've got some educational service providers who aren't required to have background checks or fingerprinting for people who are working, as the language here says, substantially with students, and I think that's a safety loophole. But regardless, the other question is who's monitoring what we can monitor? Is that our regular staff of monitors in a variety of areas? Is that you? Who's monitoring ASU in this capacity
Well, so again,
in general?
separate that into licensed and non-licensed. Licensed would be done by USBE. Okay, non-licensed, it's the Bureau of Criminal Investigations, and then they send that data directly on to the school. And that's going to be the same for
Yeah,
every LEA.
May I add? I think you're asking a broader
I'm
question.
asking a different question, yeah. Thank you.
She's asking monitoring
okay.
of ASU as a program. Who's going to be conducting that? So that is our staff. We are up to 4 staff in the statewide online education program, so we have additional support to be able to provide that, as well as the fees that are coming in. So if we end up being spread too thin, we'll be able to do some contract work to be able to do some of that monitoring if necessary. At this time, with only one provider, we're anticipating we can cover that kind of support for monitoring. But it will be within our agency, both with Corey and then our finance department when it comes to fiscal monitoring.
Okay, thank you.
Member Norton.
Yes, do we have other providers that are in the pipeline?
A number of providers came to our pre-provider training. None followed through except for ASU. We have one other that I won't divulge because they already have a state contract, but they seem pretty serious about entering. I don't think we would have any more enter until next spring when we start our pre-provider training again. So no one in the short term.
Any other questions or comments? This is another first. The one question I had, I guess I'll throw it out there because I didn't catch it when I read this. What is the term of this agreement? Is it a 1 year, or how does this?
I can speak to that one.
Yeah.
So in our rules, they have to kind of prove themselves. They have to have a high enough graduation completion rate and some other metrics to stay an eligible provider. If they don't meet those metrics, then they go on probation for a year. So it is long-term. They can stay as long as they meet the metrics required for the program. So looking at our graduation completion rates, or not graduation, but just completion rates of kids completing courses is one of the metrics that we have. Looking at our other providers, we're in the high 80s and 90% of completion, and we would expect a very similar rate from ASU. If they don't achieve that rate, for example, they would become on probation and have to achieve a higher rate the following year to stay eligible. Otherwise, they would be dismissed from the program and have to wait a year to come back into the program, or at least to apply again and correct their deficiencies.
So there's some performance.
Absolutely.
I'm not seeing any other lights. This is an actionable item. So I guess it's, go ahead. Did you, because they're following process and what's in statute, and they bring it before us, what's before us is, on this opportunity here is, our action is a proposed act. I seek a motion that the board approve ASU Prep Digital to serve as a certified online provider in the statewide online education program. Anybody wanting to make that motion?
I'll bring it. You want me to restate it?
Or you
You're
just
gonna
say so
restate it.
moved? I'll
So
restate-
moved.
Is there a second? Second, Board Member Cannon. You want to speak to the motion?
No, I think we heard a couple months ago, I guess it was, the process, and we had some good discussion about how that will be applied to applicants and the review and the 80% graduation requirement. And so it seems like there's a rigorous set of standards and we'll be following them. And I think it's exciting that we have it opened up and also some standards in place to follow and guide them through it. So I appreciate the opportunity to approve this.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approve ASU's Prep Digital to serve as a certified online provider in the statewide online education program. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
The one? Wait, the motion passes. You have one no. Okay, thank you. We're skipping item 10, well, we're moving that to, we're going to be discussing part of it tomorrow and then to the next month. So we're moving on now to item 11, which is, we're going to start our committee report. Am I missing something? Oh, a little bit? Yeah. Well, you want to say it? Yeah. What we discussed, because the opportunity involved.
Thank you, Chair Huntsman. Just a brief bit of narrative to item number 10. It was the intent of staff to give you background, just an initial look at the business cases. And if you have a question or comment on any of the proposed business cases that you'll be looking at in October to take action on, there should be a contact name for staff with each business case. So just contact them directly if you have questions, concerns, comments, ideas, et cetera, for those business cases. If you have time between now and next board meeting to look through those, that it will really aid us in moving through them for official action in October. But we wanted you to have them with plenty of lead time so that you can contact staff if you need further information.
Thank you, Superintendent. And also in the training tomorrow, as we look at those business cases too, I'm sure they're going to come up. You'll see those contacts. And then also, if you want to create one, how do you do it? And how does USBE assist you in creating that? So we'll look forward to that. Thank you, Superintendent.